Welcome to the Momunity Podcast.
We are Kimberly King
and Diane Tarantini,
two survivor moms dedicated to helping you navigate the tough topics of motherhood.
School is in session.
Ding, ding, ding. Hey everybody, we're back to talk to you about more body safety tips. We're fresh off of a conference. Diane, tell us about it.
It was so invigorating. We learned so much. We met so many really good people doing important work. But I've never had that level of energy in an exhibition hall, even though it was quite small. Would you agree?
Yeah, it was so unique because I think the energy was like the expectation of meeting all the people that we collaborate with and work with, like through all this, through the COVID, through all this time, and like getting everybody in the same room. It was like amazing. It was so great. Except
it was
for
it was like they wanted to hear what we had to say. You know, a lot of times you stand at your table and the people walk by and the people walk by. But now it was like they were stopping and what do you do? And they were truly interested in what you had to say, and we exchanged business cards. And it was just really beautiful. I loved it.
It was great. And I think we learned so much from like all of the speakers and the panels we went to, but we were talking today about really wanting to review some of the takeaways. And so like the one that stood out the most, I think, for both of us, and we'll be talking about this on our Instagram accounts and in other places as well. But David Finkelhorn did a presentation which was very comprehensive, and he talked about some of the ways we may have sort of classified sextortion incorrectly. So we wanted to review with you some of the things he said. So Diane, how did he explain it? There's sort of like a two-tiered thing.
Yes. So he said we've gotten some things wrong, and we've kind of done caricatures of certain harm elements.
Right.
And he said we are just putting the whole volume of sextortion cases on bad actors on the other side of the world.
Right.
And he said there's more to sextortion than that. So sextortion is I send you a nude and you threaten and ask me for more stuff. Well, it's not just the bad guys on the other side of the world doing it, is it, Kimberly?
No, and I think like he did a really good job clarifying, like there are those bad actors in foreign countries that like that's their business. They like groom children, they lure them in, they get them to send images, and then before you know it, they are blackmailing them for thousands of dollars. And then kids have been targeted, specifically boys, I think between the ages of like 13 and 17, and there have been a number of suicides. So that's like really sad and horrible, and that's in the news all the time. But especially lately, because the FBI put out a warning about it. But what's not in the news all the time is the everyday things that happen between tweens and teens, and sometimes adults and teens. So that's what we wanted to clarify today. So Diane, what do you think? How can we explain to parents like how sextortion can happen with young kids that have cell phones?
Yeah, so I'll frame it like this. Has your child ever dated someone you didn't care for? Like you knew in your mom or dad gut that this is not the one, and it's actually a bad influence in your child's life. Well, so sometimes what sextortion looks like as these kids start to flirt and be romantic digitally, and they get to that point where maybe one just really holds just really pressures the other for those explicit images that are super sexy.
Yeah.
And the person responds by just sooner or later breaks down and sends the super sexy pictures. And then guess what? I say this in body safety assemblies. The average relationship, like in middle school, is 3 months. And when I say that, like at a body safety assembly, they'll say, excuse me, Mrs. Tarantini, it's more like 3 days, maybe 3 hours. So like that's the kids being real, but those pictures are already in the cloud.
Yes,
and then
the pictures live.
So when like the more powerful partner gets grumpy, what happens, Kimberly?
Yeah, so when there's like a breakup or disagreement or people move on, those images are still held by the receiver. And so that creates a problem because it can cause, an imbalance of power. It can involve sextortion where the person might threaten to share pictures with other people. It can be blackmail where the person might say, you know what, if you don't send me more pictures, I'm going to share these pictures with other people. Or if you don't agree to date me again, I'm going to share these pictures with other people. So it's like this power chip that can be very scary and alarming and illegal, and tough to solve because if you have sent nudes and you're not really comfortable talking with your parents, then you're
Yeah.
in a tough spot and you don't really know what to do. So we learned about some resources at the conference, and we learned how parents can also like kind of navigate this better with their kids. And it's kind of reverse of what you would think. I think it's like counterintuitive, but it makes sense to me. Like if you're, maybe start having a conversation in a global sense about, do you know anybody who sends these nudes in their romantic relationships? Are there any stories you want to share? Like, do you have a friend who does that? And like, don't make it accusatory.
Right.
Make it about like what's happening today when children are in romantic relationships or when young adults are in romantic relationships, and start a conversation. That was one of the tips that was really empowering, I think. And then there were more tips too that were like that didn't really make sense.
Yeah, and I'm drawing a blank on the ones you're talking about,
Oh,
except yeah, go
the
ahead.
one where like just saying like it's okay to send nudes as long as you
Oh,
don't I think one of the things was like it's okay to send nudes if you're comfortable with it, but we want to talk about how to do it safely. So
yes.
there were some tips which
Yes.
I
I
don't
do. Okay, now I'm clued in.
like. We know
So,
it's illegal because
yes.
it's considered CSAM, child sexual abuse material, if it's somebody under 16, right? And then if it's shared between older people and younger people, there's many complicated legal aspects, but Dr. Finkelhorn said that focusing on the legality of it kind of takes
That
away from
bites you in
the
the butt,
conversation,
remember?
right?
Because
What?
if you tell a child that they could be prosecuted if they get caught sending or receiving, that can push them into silence and
Yeah,
isolation, and they
right,
won't reach out to any safe adult.
right.
So you might want to table that
Yeah, that was
argument.
one of the great points. It's
Yeah.
counterintuitive, but it's really important, right?
Yeah. So you mentioned something, and I want to speak to it, and I'm actually going to make a social media image about this. And to her credit, like my sassy middle child said this to me like 2 years ago. So Finkelhorst said they did a study on sexting, and they found that two things, and one is actually not related to sexting, but it's related to parents and their kids and
Yeah.
just child safety. Um, Kids want their parents to have sex educational conversations with them.
Yeah.
It's awkward for everyone, um, but and I'm telling you, there is so much language that you actually might have to Google some
Oh
of the
yeah.
terms that are out there that people over 40 have no idea what they
Yeah,
mean.
that's so true. Like I think he mentioned going back to the basics with that too. Like if you start early with these conversations about sex
Yeah.
ed and body safety, that by the time your child is 15 or 16, you're going to be way more comfortable talking about it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I mean, like what you said about not knowing some of the terms, we watched sex ed, sex,
Oh, sex education.
sex education on
So
Netflix, and it's so. I mean, at first it was a little bit like,
illuminating.
"Ooh," but it's empowering because you learn
Yes.
things. You see parents and
Yes.
kids talking. You find out, how to maybe build your own repertoire of tools so that you can be a better parent for your child on this topic. Because you don't want your kid Googling this stuff. You don't want your kid on pornography. It's just
Right. So let me share Dr. Finkelhor slash my sandwich child's secret pro tip for sexting. And
tell.
this is all in your court, parent. We are delivering this information, and you can choose whether you feel comfortable passing this on to your child. But my 26-year-old told me this 2 to 3 years ago. Mom, they're going to do it, but here's what they need to know before they do it. Don't show your face.
Good point.
If you have really specific identifying body characteristics, tattoos, piercings, the way you wear your hair, a birthmark right here, like that would be something you'd want to keep out of the photo, because
Yep.
sometimes these sexting things go wrong, especially when we have revenge porn and
Yep.
really grumpy date mates, and these things get uploaded to the porn sites.
Yeah.
Did
And
Dr.
shared.
Finkelhor talk about a young person that had their material go big?
Yeah.
And when they walk down the street in big cities,
Yeah, I guess there's a
people will
lot.
look at them for like 15 seconds, like, I know you. And
Yeah.
then the light bulb.
Yeah.
Can you even imagine?
I
Keep those
can.
faces out of the screen.
And
Keep the face.
I have to tell a funny story too, about this topic. I'm not going to say the name,
Please
but
don't.
we have a friend, who, when they were in middle school, was thinking about sharing a pic with a girlfriend when they were like 12 or 13, and they took the picture with their iPad. They didn't send it,
Oh,
but the iPad was connected to the family, like the drive or whatever. And so grandma tells me, you're not going to believe what my grandson did. And he's like, and she tells me, and I'm like, oh, so grandma nipped that right in the bud.
grandma saw the person's like darling body,
Yes, his
dance clothing.
private area. And she went and talked to him. She's like, hey, you can't do this. If you do this, I'm gonna see all your pictures. We share the same drive.
Yes.
And
So
it's
this
so
leads me to another pro tip. And I can't remember if it's you who told me or somebody in our child safety sphere or like circle of influence. Don't let, like, if a young person is going to send a nude, you shouldn't like be in your bedroom that like 20 kids at your high school have been in to, like, even
um,
the environment in which you take a photo can be identifying. In
yeah.
my county, no, in one county over, boys created, we may have talked about this on another podcast episode. Boys created a Dropbox file,
Oh, we
and
did talk
they
about this.
shared every middle school um, sexually explicit nude and every high school nude. So the high school girls were a little savvier. Go high school. And they wore like bikinis or Victoria's Secret ensembles. But the middle schoolers were so desperate for love and attention that the girls were, as we say in West Virginia, buck naked.
Oh, wow.
Um,
And that makes me think of something else he said, was that like building that relationship with your kids and helping them feel really secure and like having positive body image and self-esteem and
yeah.
not feeling neglected or isolated, like really focusing on that relationship, because they're less likely to do things like that if they already feel accepted, if they already feel loved, if they already have a
Yes.
lot of positive attention. Oh,
Yes.
and then also the tips on like sort of shifting this conversation to like, okay, so we've got this problem of sexting, and it is a problem, but how do we shift the conversation about healthy relationships? Because that really needs to come before all this stuff, right? So
Yes.
what does a healthy
Yes.
relationship look like when you're 12, if you're dating somebody when you're 12 or when you're 16 or and all of that. So
Yeah.
that was just really powerful, like how important it is for us as parents to put our phones down and to like engage and start
So
doing those important things.
I was at a lunch and learn yesterday, and they had us vision casting. We had big white sheets and
Yes.
magic markers on our table, and it's like, what would a world look like where prevention was happening 100% and children were being protected? And so that was question one. It's a beautiful world. Everybody's safe. There's less trauma. There's less
Yay.
burden on the government because of the bad things that people do when they experience sexual harm. But then they asked us, how could we make this happen? And Rosalia Rivera at Consent Parenting, like she's like, I've been thinking about this already, people. And
Yeah.
she wanted to develop a program which was like like it's healthy relationships, it's emotional health, it's sexual health, it's just kids being aware of health, like your body, your brain, your heart, your sexual experience.
So
And
kind of like
just
a mind body comprehensive program.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I thought, like, I tweezed off from that. I would love to see that in a setting of a health class,
Yeah, sure.
like grade school through 12th. Everybody gets high school, so then you don't necessarily need to bring in outside presenters and have body safety assemblies where everybody is missing academic
Yeah.
curriculum. I'm like, just put it in the curriculum. It's in the
Yeah, I
health
mean that
class.
they used to have health teachers. Remember that back in the day? We used to have like a
Is
health.
it
I had
not
a
a
health.
thing
We had a health
anymore?
teacher in middle school, and that
Yeah.
person was very awkward at teaching these topics. But like training people in these
Yeah.
topics, like maybe that could be a new certification or like a
Right.
college degree or something.
Right. I
Yeah.
was on an international Zoom for Siblings to International Day, and we talked about the value of sex education.
Yeah.
And one woman said, "I'm in the school. If you put a person in the front of the gym or the lunchroom or the classroom who will answer any question knowledgeably without flaming up, just seriously interested in educating the children and understanding their viewpoint," she goes, "That's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Answer
Definitely.
any question they have
Definitely. It's kind of
without
a partnership.
flipping out."
It's got to be a partnership with the parents
Yeah.
and the school and the community. And like at the end of this whole, like bringing it back to our conference, like the theme is that this is such a problem, the exploitation of children, the sexual abuse of children, that it is way worse than COVID. It's an epidemic. And so it has to be declared a health crisis in
A
order to
public
get
health
attention.
crisis. Yes.
And I think it will when we go through the rest of our statistics this week and the things that we've learned and, start collaborating more with people in our field. I think we can get there. But this was a really helpful conversation, Diane.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have any like last minute tips?
No, I don't want to choke people with too much information.
Okay, well, let's leave it there. That was a good combo.
Yeah.
And I'll stop and we will share this soon. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the Momunity Podcast.
Be sure to subscribe, write a review if you heard something you liked, or better yet, invite others to be part of this Momunity.
Until next time, be safe out there.
Ding, 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 ding.